Welcome to The Awakened Heart, a podcast for healing women, a place where your voice matters, your body is sacred, and your journey home to yourself is always honored, no matter how bumpy or winding this lovely road is. I'm Autumn Moran, licensed professional counselor in the state of Texas, life coach in Texas and abroad, 500-hour trained yoga instructor, and ultimately, I am here to be your companion on this divine sacred path I like to call healing. I'm so glad you're here with me today for this bonus episode. This is a 2-part bonus epi. Today, we will talk about being emotionally available with yourself. And next week's bonus episode will be all about how to be emotionally available with others. But before we dive in, I want to take a moment to check in with you. How are you arriving to this conversation today? Maybe you're feeling curious, maybe a little apprehensive, or perhaps you're not quite sure what you're feeling at all. Eh? And that's perfectly okay. There's no right way to show up. But today I'm talking about something that might feel both deeply familiar and completely foreign. Being emotionally available with yourself. I know that might sound a little abstract or might be even a little overwhelming, especially if you're someone who's spent years learning to survive by disconnecting from your emotions, or if you're a neurodivergent and emotions sometimes feel like a language you're still learning to speak. I want to acknowledge right up front that this conversation might bring up some feelings. That's actually kind of the point today. But please remember that you are in complete control of your experience right now, and if at any point you need to pause and breathe or journal, that's not just okay. It's wise self-care. Today, I want to explore what emotional availability with yourself actually means, especially when your brain works differently or when you've experienced trauma. I want to talk about unique barriers many of us face, and I'll share some practical, accessible tools to honor wherever you are in your journey. So take a nice deep breath, get comfy, and let's start this adventure. So first up, let's define it, right? What does it actually mean to be emotionally available with yourself? I think of emotional availability as being present with whatever is happening inside you without immediately trying to fix it, change it, or make it go away. It's like being a really good friend to yourself. The kind of friend who sits with you when you're upset, who doesn't judge you for having big feelings, and who doesn't try to solve everything right away. Now, this is different from emotional awareness. Emotional awareness is knowing that you're angry or you're sad or excited. Emotional availability goes a step further. It's making space for that anger or sadness or excitement to exist and approaching it with curiosity rather than judgment. For many of us, this can feel very foreign, even a little scary. Maybe you grew up learning that your emotions were inconvenient or dangerous. Maybe you've spent so much energy managing everyone else's feelings that you've lost touch with your own. Or maybe your emotions feel so big and overwhelming that disconnecting from them feel like the only way to survive. If you're neurodivergent, you might be dealing with some specific challenges that make emotional connection feel complicated. Because understanding them, let's understand them, right? Because understanding them can help us work with them rather than against them. Like my whole stance is meet yourself where you're at. Don't resist the reality. Don't resist yourself with who you are. Meet yourself where you're at. Don't be your obstacle, right? Your biggest obstacle. So first off, for neurodivergent people, we can often experience alexithymia. This is difficulty identifying and describing emotions. You might know something is happening inside you, but you can't quite name it or understand it. It's like having feelings in a foreign language. This doesn't mean you don't have emotions. They're absolutely there, but the translation system might need some support. What can be helpful here is a feelings wheel, feelingswheel.com, or I've seen the latest one be an emotional sensations wheel. So start with maybe what you're feeling and work inwards toward the emotion. And then there's sensory processing. I mean, if you're sensitive to sensory input, strong emotions can feel overwhelming, not just emotionally, but physically. The heart can race, your chest can be tight, your throat can be tight, buzzing in your head. It all feels like too much stimulation at once. And many of us have learned to mask our authentic selves to fit in and stay safe in this neurotypical world. But when you're constantly performing a version of yourself, you can lose touch with what actually you feel underneath the performance. And let's not forget our executive functioning. Sometimes we intellectually understand that we should check in with our emotions, but actually remembering to do it or organizing our thoughts enough to make sense of what we're feeling, this can be a real challenge when your executive functioning is running on empty. And if you're a trauma survivor, in addition to that, or just in that, you might be dealing with additional layers of complexity. Your nervous system might have learned that emotions equal danger. So it's automatically disconnecting you from feeling anything as a protective mechanism. This is actually incredibly smart. Your system is trying to keep you safe. You might experience dissociation, where you feel separate from your emotions or even from your body. Or maybe you swing between feeling nothing at all and feeling everything all at once. You might be hypervigilant, constantly scanning for emotional threats, while others might find yourself in a protective numbness. If you're both neurodivergent and a trauma survivor, these experiences can compound each other. This disconnection can feel even more pronounced. The emotional overwhelm can feel so freaking intense. The confusion about what you're feeling can feel even more frustrating. You know you feel something, but oh my God, let me just scream or blow something up first. And here's the really important part. All of these responses make complete sense. They're not character flaws or personal failures. This is adaptive strategies that your brilliant, beautiful brain developed to help you navigate a world that wasn't always safe or accommodating. But sometimes these very strategies that have helped us survive can become barriers to connection and to the healing that we're seeking now. What once kept us safe is no longer serving us, and that's okay. That's why we're here today, right? That's what we're here to do, to gently explore how we can begin to shift from survival mode to a more connected way of being with yourselves. But before you change anything, it's helpful to understand where you're starting from. So let's take a curious look at your current relationship with your emotions. There is no wrong way, right way to answer any of this. Just be honest with yourself. How do you typically respond when emotions arise? Do you immediately try to analyze them and figure them out and figure out why you're feeling that way? Do you distract yourself with activities or your phone? Do you judge yourself for having the feeling in the freaking first place? Maybe you don't even notice the emotions until they're really big and demanding all the attention. Just notice thinking about this without judgment, just looking at patterns. What emotions feel safe for you to experience? And which ones feel dangerous or overwhelming? Maybe happiness feels okay, but anger might be a little too scary. Maybe sadness is familiar, but joy feels way too freaking vulnerable. Or perhaps you're only allowed to experience certain emotions in the privacy of your own home, never in front of others. No one. In your home, in your room, in your shower, in your closet, in your bedroom when no one's looking. In your car. right? When do you notice yourself disconnecting or numbing out? Do you have triggers? Is it when conflict arises, when you're overwhelmed at work, during social situations? Or maybe it happens so automatically that you're not even sure where it starts or when it starts. And what stories do you tell yourself about your emotional responses? Do you tell yourself you're too sensitive, you're overreacting, you need to calm down, that's not how it really is, you're crazy? Do you believe that other people handle emotions better than you do? Or maybe you've convinced yourself that you don't really feel things that deeply. Many of us learn to intellectualize our emotions rather than actually feel them. We can talk about being sad or angry. We can analyze why we might be feeling that way, but we don't actually let ourselves experience the sensations of sadness or anger in our bodies. It's like reading about swimming instead of getting into the water. Some of us experience emotions in an all or nothing way. We either feel nothing or we feel everything so intensely that it's overwhelming. There doesn't seem to be much of a middle ground. And there's also emotional perfectionism, the belief that we should have appropriate emotions or that we should be able to control our feelings better. We judge ourselves for being angry when we think we should be understanding, or for being sad when we think we should be grateful. And there's often just a characteristic of just being busy, hyper-focus, or even our special interests we dive into to avoid emotional processing. I totally support using your special interest to regulate and find joy in a beautiful and healthy way. But if they're the only way you can cope with difficult emotions, or if you're using them completely to avoid feeling anything challenging, that's worth noticing. That might be worth thinking about and trying something small. Whatever you discover about yourself is information, not indictment. You develop these patterns for good reasons. They helped you survive. They helped you function. They helped you get through difficult times. The question isn't whether these patterns are good or bad. It's whether they're still serving you in the life you want to create now. Maybe complete emotional disconnection helped you get through a traumatic period, but now it's also disconnecting you from joy and connection. Maybe hyperfocus helped you achieve amazing things, but now you're realizing you want to be more present to the full spectrum of your inner experience. And it's always important to honor your current capacity. You might be thinking, yes, I want to be more emotionally available with myself, but you're also dealing with stress, work stress, relationship challenges, financial pressure, and our health issues. Emotional work takes energy, and it's okay if you don't have a lot of extra energy right now. This isn't about adding another item to your self-improvement to-do list. This is about gently and gradually creating a more connected relationship with yourself at a pace that feels sustainable and safe for you. Safety is absolutely foundational to this work. If you don't feel safe, your nervous system will keep you in protective mode, and emotional availability becomes much more difficult. So, how do you create safety, both internally and in your environment? First up, internal safety, right? This is about helping your nervous system feel calm and regulated enough to allow emotions to be present without immediately activating your fight, flight, freeze, or fawn responses. One of the most important tools here is nervous system regulation. Deep breathing is traditional advice, but for some trauma survivors, focusing on breath can actually increase or trigger memories, increase anxiety, or trigger memories. So instead, I like to start with just grounding in the present moment. It's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but I do it very sporadically and very neurodivergent-y. Just name what you see. Name things that are touching your skin, how your clothes feel. Name what you can hear in the room, outside the room. Name anything you can smell or taste. If you like to stim, use some stems as co-regulation tools. Use your stems as allies. If you have special interests, you might find that thinking about them briefly can help you feel more grounded before approaching emotional processing. It's like having an emotional support system built right into your brain. And environmental safety is also crucial. Think about where and when you do your best emotional processing. Maybe it's in your bedroom with the lights dimmed and your favorite blanket, favorite drink, favorite vibe, lamp. Maybe it's while walking outside in nature. Maybe it's in your car where you feel completely private. And pay attention to the sensory factors too. If you're sensitive to sound, pick a quiet place or some noise canceling or noise muffling headphones. If the light's too bright, soften the light, get a lamp. Get rid of those LED lights. Go back to the old school lights. I know I sound like a crazy person, but I mean it. If you need movement, give yourself permission to pace or fidget or rock. Back to the sensory, back to the environmental, but also timing. Don't try to process big emotions when you're already overwhelmed, exhausted, or stressed. Choose times before you've given away all your spoons. Try to fill your cup before you fill others' cup, even if it's a 5-minute waking up early and just saying, hey, girl, I see you. I love you. You've got this. Clock in. And have all your support tools readily available. A favorite stuffed animal, a piece of jewelry, or a piece of something that comforts you, a playlist that makes you feel safe, or a phone number of a trusted friend. Your therapist, your life coach can also be a source. And let's talk about now the window of tolerance. Imagine your capacity to handle emotions as a window. Inside the window, you can feel things without being completely overwhelmed or completely shut down. You have access to your thinking brain and your feeling brain at the same time. When we get pushed outside our window, either into hyperarousal, where everything feels too intense, or hypoarousal, where everything feels numb and disconnected, it becomes much harder to be emotionally available to ourselves. The goal isn't to never leave your window of tolerance. That's impossible, and it's not even desirable. The goal is to recognize when you're outside your window and have the tools to gently guide you back inside. If you're in hyperarousal, heart racing, mind spinning, all the things, you might need calming techniques. Ice cubes in a Ziploc bag, cold water on your wrists, progressive muscle relaxation, squeezing and releasing your fists and muscles, all parts of your body, or the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding technique. If you're in hypoarousal, feeling numb and disconnected, shut down, you might need gentle activating techniques. Gentle movements to get the blood flowing, upbeat music, bright lights, or calling a friend, a body double. Rock, shake, wiggle, move the body in slow movements and gradually make them bigger. The key is working within your window rather than pushing through it. And in our culture, we're often taught to power through, bust through the window, never come back, and forcing yourself to just backfire all the time. But instead, we want to gradually expand the window of tolerance. Think of it like a physical exercise, gradually increasing your capacity over time with rest and recovery built in. What? That sounds foreign. How do I have rest and recovery built in? I can't even take a moment to myself. This is where that self-compassion comes in. This might be the most important safety tool of all, because many of us carry internalized ableism about emotional processing. We think we should be able to handle emotions the same way neurotypical people do, or at the same speed that other people heal from trauma. We judge ourselves for needing accommodations or for taking longer to process things. But your brain works the way it works. Your nervous system responds the way it responds based on your unique combination of neurology and life experiences. There's nothing wrong with needing to do things differently, to do things your way. Please release the timeline expectations. There's no schedule for emotional healing or development. Some days you'll have more capacity than others. Some emotions will be easier to be present with than others. That's not a personal failing, that's just being human. And practice radical acceptance of your emotional landscape. This doesn't mean you can't work toward changing or growing. It means you start from a place of acknowledging what is rather than fighting against it or judging it. So you can say something to yourself like, right now, I'm feeling overwhelmed and I'm noticing the urge to disconnect. This makes sense given everything I'm dealing with. What do I need right now to feel a little bit safer? That self-compassion is the key component. That last question, what do I need right now to feel a little bit better? This kind of internal dialogue, this curious, compassionate, non-judgmental dialogue creates the emotional safety to make deeper connections possible. All right, so let's get practical. I want to share some specific tools that are designed with accessibility in mind. If you experience alexithymia and having difficulty identifying emotions, visual aids can be incredibly helpful. This is where the feelings wheel and the emotional resources, emotional sensation wheel comes up. Using metaphors and imagery can help too. Maybe your emotions feel like a storm, or like being wrapped in a heavy blanket, or like having butterflies in your chest. Sometimes it's easier to access emotional information through imagery rather than trying to find that exact word or feeling, because we are so literal as neurodivergents. For trauma survivors, try a titrated exposure. Experience emotions in small, manageable doses rather than all at once. Think of it as like dipping your toe in the water rather than just jumping into the deep end. You might set a timer for just 2 minutes and allow yourself to feel whatever's present, knowing that you have a clear endpoint. You might practice tapping your fingers, feeling a different emotions, shifting your attention to something neutral or positive, then back to the emotion for just a moment. Safety anchors are also very important. Before you start any emotional processing, remind yourself of something that helps you feel grounded and safe. This might be placing your hand on your heart, looking at a photo of someone you love, or just simply reminding yourself that you are in a safe space right now. Some people find that drawing or doodling while thinking about emotions helps them access feelings that might be hard to reach with words alone. Visual journaling, where you use your colors, your shapes, your images instead of words. This can be particularly helpful for those of us who think in pictures or who find verbal processing challenging. On the daily, you can have micro check-ins, and that's exactly what they sound like. Brief moments throughout the day where you pause and ask yourself, how am I doing right now? Maybe you do it every time you go to the bathroom. Maybe every time you finish a task. Maybe you have a gentle phone reminder. The key is keeping these check-ins short and low pressure. You're not trying to solve anything or change anything. You're just checking in. You're just noticing. You might create small emotional rituals that feel manageable. Maybe like lighting a candle while you think about your day, or playing one specific song that helps you connect to yourself. And technology can be your friend here if you use it mindfully. There are plenty of apps designed for emotional tracking, mood journaling, or guided emotional check-ins. I am a huge Finch app user, Finch. I love it. If you haven't tried it, I find it helpful, but I know to each their own. But these are all tools to support your own awareness, not to tell you how you should feel or what you should be doing about your feelings. What about developing better internal communication? Many of us are much kinder to our friends than we are ourselves. We're actually really mean, harsh, and just downright fucking awful to ourselves internally. So I want you to start talking to yourself like you would a little kid. I want you to start talking to yourself like you talk to your best friend. And instead of shooting yourself into feeling this way, just try to say, this feeling is here for a reason. What is it telling me? And learn to sit with uncertainty and mixed emotions, because you don't have to figure it out. Sometimes the most emotionally available thing you can do is acknowledge that you're having a lot of different feelings about a situation and don't know how to sort them out right now. Because the goal isn't to become an emotion expert overnight. It's to gradually develop a more connected, more curious, compassionate relationship with your inner world. Start small, pick one technique that feels manageable, and try it this week. Notice what happens without pressure to do it perfectly. Because even with all those tools, you're going to run into challenges. Like, what happens when your emotions are too big to handle? This is where crisis planning becomes important, because you're in the middle of overwhelming feelings. Thinking about what you need to help you in the moment is just a struggle. So this might include breath work. This might include apps. This might include grounding, even a script you read to yourself that reminds you that your feelings are temporary. Ride the wave. In DBT and addiction circles, they surf the urge. Like, it's just an emotion. It's going to get high like a wave, and it's going to crest on the shore and go down. Like, just surf the urge. And don't hesitate to reach out to a professional, a therapist, a life coach, a doctor, a hospital, a helpline, if you need to talk to someone. Peer support can be incredibly valuable too. Connecting with other neurodivergent people or trauma survivors in support groups can be quite helpful. Just remember that reconnection or connecting with yourself often happens slowly and in waves. You might have moments of feeling more connected, followed by periods of numbness. That's normal and doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. One thing that is often surprising when working on emotional availability with yourself, that it can affect your relationships. As you become more connected to your own emotions, you might notice that you have different boundaries around emotional labor, or that you're less willing to manage other people's feelings at the expense of your own. This can feel really uncomfortable at first for everyone involved, especially if people in your life are used to being emotionally available. They're used to you being emotionally available to them while neglecting yourself. So remember that developing a healthy relationship with your own emotion actually makes you more capable of genuine connection with others, not less. So it might shine a light on the relationships or connections that are not breathing life, that are sucking out life. And you might need to communicate your process to important people in your life. You can let them know I'm working on being more connected to my own emotions, so I might need a little more time to process things before I respond. Emotional availability with yourself is a practice, not a destination. You're not trying to achieve some perfect state of emotional awareness. You're simply cultivating a more connected, compassionate relationship with whatever arises in your inner world. Your neurological differences and trauma responses are valid. You don't need to process emotions the same way other people do. You don't need to heal on anyone else's timeline. This is your path. This is your perfect timing. Consistent steps create lasting change. You don't need an overhaul. Choose one small thing and practice it gently with lots of patience. You deserve to have a compassionate relationship with your emotions. You deserve to know yourself deeply. This is your birthright as a human being. This week, I'd invite you to check in with yourself daily. How am I doing right now? Use a cue that happens often in your day, a sound, an event that happens throughout the day that you can use as a reminder to check in. Thank you so much for being here with me today, for doing this important work, for choosing to develop a more connected relationship with yourself. Oof, the world needs us. The world needs all the authenticity ever, if ever, more now than ever. We need your unique perspective, your beautiful, complex humanity. I'd love to hear from you. Message, comment, or follow. And I offer virtual private sessions for therapy if you're in Texas, virtual life coaching if you're outside the state or abroad. Whether you're healing, whether you're navigating, or whether you're just ready to come home to yourself, I am here to help you hold space and find your path. Fill out the consultation form on the link tree in the show notes if you're interested. I'd love to chat with you for a free 15-minute chat. Until next time, may you be happy and free. May mine and your healing ripple outward to bless the world with happiness and freedom. Take care of you, and I'll see you soon.